Are you ready to stop the self-sabotage and create the life you desire? Well, in order for that to happen, you need to break free from the bad beliefs that are holding your success hostage. You need to optimize the stress by turning it into extra energy for success. And those hurtful habits? Well, we need to give that pain a purpose for progress. Welcome to Stop the Self-Sabotage and Create the Life You Desire podcast.
What is the month that is the hottest for you? Right now, in the good old Midwest of the US where I live, it is this month of August, which means that this is the month that people are more prone to what's known as allocation overload. Fancy word for stress. And when people get stressed, they get pissy, they get angry, they violate boundaries, they demand more. But what if you have experienced a chronic overload? What if, because of certain experiences that you went through without the capacity to be able to handle those experiences, your system then dysregulated? And to then try to overcompensate for the dysregulation, you picked up some dysfunctional habits. And at some point, those dysfunctional habits and the original dysregulation that caused them, well, that led to you going toxic, whether physically, emotionally, or mentally. But you just felt like you could never get on top of it. Different illnesses showing up, having sick relationships or problems that just never seem to end with finances. Well, that's what we're here to talk about today is dysregulation, dysfunctional habits, toxic and worse. Okay. The reason why I want to share it with you this month is because it really can come to the forefront of being seen whenever you're like, oh my gosh, why do these people always keep coming and taking their anger out on me? Or why is it whenever they're always short on needing assistance with something, I'm the one that they come to? Why does it seem like I'm the one that always has to overperform for their underperformance? Or I just want to get away from everybody and close myself off right now. By the way, those are the two coping strategies, which is known as anxious or avoidance. And I don't diagnose. I don't tell you got these challenges. I think you're smart enough that once you're given an explanation, you can figure it out yourself. So this is actually going to be one of a 4-part series where today we're laying the groundwork on dysregulation, dysfunction, toxic, and worse. Then the next one that we're going to be getting into is, are you just being pissy or are you being poisoned? Then was it the lack of aspirin that caused your headache to start with? That's number 3, where we're going to start treating the symptoms, but also getting to the cause. And then the last one is what toxic teaches us about dumpster fires, shit shows, and who to stay away from. Okay. But let's talk about what you need to know in the very beginning. Okay, so what is dysregulation? We can be dysregulated physically, emotionally, mentally, or all of the above. It simply means that you're not operating at a consistent set point for success. You were born with a set point for success. Your system was born with a harmonious level that was going to allow you to grow, to achieve, to move forward. But something happened. And again, we're going to get into this a little bit more tomorrow when we talk about, are you being pissy or are you really being poisoned? But something happened to cause that your system to dysregulate, where you got stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is also known as appease. When you're consistently trying to pour into others for them to see their magnificent potential that they seem to be blind to, but there's always a price for success, and you seem to be the one that continues to pay it for other people. So that's what fawn is. Your system got stuck, and that the experience that you went through had your set point by either getting stuck at too high or too low. So when it's too high, you find that you overperform in a way that will harm yourself. When it's too low, it's actually too heavy. That's when you avoid, you just want to get away. And I can hear some of you now going, oh, hey, I'm an overachiever. I do both. I get that. Boy, do I get that. But you will find that one of these will be your primary go-to. So then the system becomes dysregulated until it almost becomes natural. I don't want to be saying normal because it's not, but it is natural for you to either be too high or feel like things are too heavy. Well, what are you going to need to do then to bring some relief to your system? Oh, this is when you pick up dysfunction, dysfunctional habits. Now, there's a difference between patterns and habits, imprints, and experiences. So an experience is something that you go through one time or maybe a few times, but it's not enough to create an imprint. An imprint is, well, think of like wet clay and you put your hand in it. And once that clay hardens, well, that imprint of your hand stays permanent. So you have imprints, and these are shortcuts for your powerful mind, known as your subconscious, to say, oh, when we encounter this, this is what we do. And that's done in 1,000th of 1 second. You don't even have to waste your very important resources of consciously trying to decide if you should cross the street in front of a bus that's barreling down the road. Well, you're either going to have to lift those knees pretty high and get moving to get across the street, or just don't do it. So that's an imprint. Then from imprints, we can develop habits and patterns. What's the difference between those two? Habits don't happen all the time. I happen to have a habit of putting up a Christmas tree at Christmas. I don't have one year round. So habits are part-time based on the context of the situation. Patterns, though, are always with us. I brush my teeth at least twice a day. I take a shower daily. I don't know about you. If you hang out in my world, you typically do. So patterns are something that you engage in all the time. You are programmed and conditioned for those. Okay. So now we've got a system mentally, emotionally, physically that is out of whack. The heartbeat, the pulse rate, the immune system, whether you're able to think clearly. So you need something that is going to try to stabilize you. And this is when you can pick up dysfunctional habits. If it's something that's all the time, it's going to be a dysfunctional pattern. Both are addressed the same way by the fact that we understand they're there for a purpose. This is the reason why when people try to get rid of what they consider a bad habit or pattern, without understanding the message of how it was there to try to harmonize their life, they're just going to pick up something else that's just as challenging, that creates just as many problems, and put it in its place because they're not understanding what it was there to assist with from the beginning. So dysfunctional habits they're just trying to help you, but it is only a temporary fix. And then the habit and pattern, depending on how frequently you experience it, because just those first two, being dysregulated and dysfunctional, that's enough. Oh, and by the way, we've got the dysfunctional habit that in the long run now causes dysregulation, plus the original dysregulation. So now we've got two of them. It continues long enough, strong enough. That's when we go toxic. That's when systems, they just can't support this. The stress load is wearing out who we are. And it shows in our relationships, it shows in our career, it shows in our health. Okay. So, what is it that you want to do to prepare for the next time that we get together and we begin to look at, are you being pissy? Because it's okay to be pissy at times, as long as you don't create harm. Or are you being poisoned, which can, in at least 20% of the times that you're angry, it's because somebody is doing it to you on purpose, but you have what's known as a subconscious scotoma. You can't see it because you are programmed and conditioned not to see it. So you could be a supply, a food source for somebody else. Okay, so what is it that you need to do to begin to prepare for the next time we get together on pissy or poisoned? Look at what is your primary way to try to begin to regulate yourself. Are you overperforming? And so now you need to engage in a habit that begins to quiet you down? Or are you doing avoidance? And then you're like, okay, now I need to engage in a habit that's kind of risky and ups the game. Hey, sugar is a great way to make that happen. Okay. I want you to know this. The dysregulation, the dysfunction, going toxic, and worse. I already said you were born with a system that had a set point for success. For these other things to take place, it was not something you did to yourself, which is the reason why beating yourself up doesn't work. It was something done to you. And then your system learned to react instead of respond. I want you to be in the flow of health, of regulation, of healthy function, of looking for the next goal to go after in a way that brings you out at your best. To be able to do that, you want to start looking at, well, number one, it's not your fault, but number two, you have to take 100% responsibility about moving yourself forward. So, and I also wanted to let you know, by the way, if you want to work with me on this, I'm doing something basically right now for the month of August. You typically can't work with me on a Friday or a Saturday, but right now it's too hot to do anything else. So I have opened up what's known as Miracle Mornings or achievement afternoons, which is us getting together for 2.5 hours. It's like a VIP day. And we're going to dive into how you've been overloaded and what it is you need to do to be able to release what no longer belongs to you, but then reclaim the power that's been hiding underneath it. We're going to do that with strategic coaching, a plan of action that will continue to support your success, and a customized hypnosis session to make it easier for you to reach greater heights of success with less effort. Your investment for the 2.5 hours is $297. Again, it's going to be available on 6 days a week, mornings and afternoons. And before I will even send you the investment link, if you'll look in the description of this episode, you'll see where you can go and book your time first to make sure that it jives with your schedule. By the way, it will show up in your time zone. So pick a time that's going to work for you, reserve it, and then I'll send you out the information on how to take care of your investment. Okay, so until we get together again, begin to think about, what do you do? Do you overperform or do you avoid? Do you get anxious or do you shut down? And begin to think about, who taught you to do that and what did they get out of it that benefited them at your expense. We're not blaming anybody, but we do want to look at the origins of this. Okay, until we get together again, you can do this. I believe in you. And until you believe in yourself, just borrow mine.